Wrestling with Wrestling's Past and Present.
How old were you?
I was -3.
JR is trying to contain Jim Ross.
McFlurry,
It's Mick Foley. Do you see any of the aggro crag? Was any of that left over?
No, unfortunately not.
No?
I'm taking some of that home.
Definitely not is the barn burner that Leaf Cassidy and Tiger thing was, but we'll leave that there.
We digress.
God, I hope that storyline ends soon.
And 6 to 8 weeks later, they mail you a freaking magnet.
Yep. You may know him as the Red Rooster.
Because it's still real to me, damn it.
He kept making out with his wife. It was weird. So then, I'm waiting for them to put the Zelina Vega on a pole match.
And I mean, Big E's got Whale performing in his entrance, so I feel like
Wale.
Wale. I don't listen to. Okay, well, I don't listen to him, so I apologize to Wale.
This is in the mail, my good sir. No, it wasn't.
I feel like Vince is just gonna have them team together and be like, have them called Woo Bro. Like they're just gonna be the Woo Bros. Like, anyway.
Giving us a reason to come here and listen to ourselves talk.
Absolutely,
And then you can listen to us too.
Strap on and balls only on Wrestling Past and Present.
This is Gangrel, the Vampire Warrior, and you're listening to Wrestling with Wrestling's Past and Present.
This is Wrestling with Wrestling's Past and Present. I'm Tim Kurt.
I'm Roland Pulis.
And I'm Mongo.
And today we're going back to the 90s with the WWF days with Unforgiven 1999.
This is an interesting time in the business. I guess that's probably the best way to describe it. Some of the stuff that we're going to cover here, you probably couldn't do today. Actually, a lot of it you probably couldn't do today. And it's nostalgia, but you also realize like how bad some of this stuff really was.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it just, like you said, you can't get away with it today because even Val Venus, his whole character, his whole gimmick, he was a porn star on TV. Sorry, and how can you have that against a martial artist who, like, it doesn't make sense in the scheme of TV. Like, oh, you're gonna have this porn star who fights legit martial artists. Like, how's that believable? You have someone whose whole job is to screw for a living, and he's now going to suddenly be able to wrestle. Like, it just didn't make sense. And he's spoken against it. And I don't know if you want to follow Sean Morley, but he goes down this really weird political rabbit hole. So follow your own risk. But once in a while, he'll throw some little gems about there of why he didn't really care for this character. And it was originally supposed to go to Edge. Little fun fact there.
A choppy yo pee pee.
Oh.
Well, Edge was Sexton Hardcastle, so it kind of makes sense.
Yeah, that's true.
Fun fact, you guys know what Steve Blackman's up to today?
Steve Blackman. I don't even know.
He's a bail bondsman now. He's a legit bounty hunter.
That's right. I do remember seeing that now that you mention it.
Can you imagine running away from Steve Blackman? The Lethal Weapon's like, oh shit, like you have the Lethal Weapon chasing you. You done fucked up. It's Scrooge Dog, the bounty hunter. I don't want Steve Blackman coming after my ass.
I was going to say, I'll take my chance with a dog any day over Steve Blackman.
Do you think he has the nunchucks and just comes out?
Cracks you over the head with a kendo stick. Shit.
So we should mention this was, and I didn't even remember this. This was during the time when the referees were on strike. So like every match, because I was reading this match card, I'm like, why does every match have a special guest referee on it? And then I'm like, oh yeah, this is when the referees were on strike. So that was a weird time.
Yeah, imagine having a pay-per-view with like the Brooklyn Brawler and Harvey Whippleman being your fucking main referees. It's like I said, this pay-per-view, I'm not going to say it was good, bad, or indifferent. We'll get to the end of all this, but like, it's just interesting choice to have the referees go on strike. And again, I'm air quoting for the people that can't see us, but just weird times.
I don't understand. So clearly we know Vince is against unions. You can ask Zelina Vega the first time she was fired. So was the whole point of this storyline to be like a union buster to attract investors? Because I know we're smarks and we're adults now looking back, but even as a kid, it didn't make sense to me. I remember this because I remember how much I hated Tom Pritchard's blue fucking pants. How it looked like he was wearing sweatpants the whole damn time, and that his hair was not done. It was like he literally looks like he just rolled out of bed and was like, "Oh, I guess I'll referee this match." Like, props to you. You train The Rock, and you're one of the best trainers in the business. But damn, can you at least get some black trousers and like do your hair for once or something?
One half of the Pritchard's Jacobs School wrestling school, Dr. Tom Pritchard.
Yes.
Like I said, great trainer, but watch this pay-per-view and just tell me that his blue friggin' sweatpants from Kmart don't distract you the whole time you're watching him.
Hey, man, maybe he wasn't making a lot of money. The referees were on strike. I don't know.
Yeah.
No, they use I think they used the word scab referee like 20 plus times the entire night.
He was the
every
head
match.
scab.
They were like, yep, and they had to make sure. Oh, he crossed the picket line. Okay. And I guess I'll help Tim. We'll cross over the line of that first match and scab storyline because that was just a shitty way to open this.
Yeah, we kind of mentioned it was Val Venus and Steve Blackman in the opening match with the Brooklyn Brawler as the special guest referee. The storyline is Val Venus stole Steve Blackman's weapons, and I don't know, it just wasn't the way to open the show. Val Venus wins with the money shot, but then Steve Blackman gets his revenge and just knocks Val Venus out with the kendo stick at the end there. Yeah, that's about it.
And Doink the Clown was one of the referees. That was kind of
Yes.
Jerry Lawler just had to mention that he was one of the Doinks, so that came up during the match as well. That Steve Lombardi was one of the many Doink the Clown characters. So yeah, I mean, nothing special at all to write home about here. It's an average match at best, and it's unfortunate because both these guys were good at certain things. Like, in all honesty, I think Val Venus, Sean Morley might be one of the more overlooked performers from that era because he actually was a solid wrestler. Steve Blackman was and is a badass. I mean, I'd hate to see a shoot fight between like him and Ken Shamrock or something, like a legit fight like that. I wouldn't even know where to begin. But yeah, and like I said, it's an interesting decision to make a pay-per-view with scab referees. See how many times we can say the word scab during this?
Hopefully not as many times as they did. Jesus. Like, that was another thing you pointed out, the commentary. They were on point there, but they were burying the shit out of this pay-per-view. Like, I don't think there was one thing. So I think they knew this pay-per-view sucked. Not to spoil the main event, but I think when Undertaker got pulled out for his injury, I think it kind of derailed some of the momentum of this pay-per-view because you have a Halloween type pay-per-view in September with Undertaker on the cover and all the promo materials, but Undertaker's not there, and there's nothing about this pay-per-view that makes it feel like it's dark or evil. So it's just, I think that plus that first match really just kind of set this pay-per-view for the bar we're going to hit.
Yeah. Next up was a singles match for the European Championship. Tom Pritchett in his blue pants is the referee. You have D'Lo Brown and Mark Henry here. A storyline here was there were two buddies. D'Lo Brown was trying to get Mark Henry in shape. His blood pressure was sky high. And then Mark Henry turns his back on D'Lo. Jeff Jarrett awards Mark Henry the European title. So that's kind of your storyline here. Before the match, he kind of says this is during the sexual chocolate era, kind of says something inappropriate to Lillian Garcia. Lillian Garcia slaps him, and that causes a braineurysm, as he puts it in his promo.
Another word they harped on the whole time.
I don't know if he meant to say that or if that was a botch. I don't know. We're just going to go with it. I'll full disclosure, I literally watched this pay-per-view just a couple hours before recording this. And I actually had to look up what happened. I totally I spaced it. I'm like, I was getting ready to watch or like talk about it. I'm like, what happened here? It's not a memorable match whatsoever. D'Lo Brown gets to win with the lowdown. And he's your new European champion.
I will give D'Lo Brown a lot of credit too, just like I gave Sean Morley from the last match. One of the more, I think, underappreciated and overlooked people in the whole business. And I don't mean just WWEF, whatever you want to call it. He's done a lot of work backstage for TNA, just different, the Aces and Eight storyline. He was involved in that with TNA. Just the Nation of Domination, the very beginnings of that. He would get his ass beat like once a week. He was like the whipping boy of the Nation of Domination way back when. He came from Memphis Smoky Mountain Wrestling. Jim Cornette brought him in essentially, and they wanted someone that could work. And I can't find a better worker on this card, a better underrated worker on this card than D'Lo Brown. That sky high that he does, there's a lot of people that do frog splashes nowadays that can't put the style to it that D'Lo Brown did. I mean, that he's an impressive guy that I think doesn't get enough appreciation for what he was able to do and his contributions to the business. So, and yeah, I mean, this Mark Henry sexual chocolate garbage would then be the beginning of, having a baby with Mae Young. So it just, whatever.
So this is when I go on my little soapbox, like I've said before, about people love the Attitude Era. We all can agree we love the Attitude Era, but it's not all memorable. It wasn't all gold. And that's the thing. This was essentially the official beginning of the Attitude Era, because Shawn Michaels had come out a few months prior and infamously wore like the biker shorts with a sock down the front and like literally put his crotch in JR's face. So this was the Attitude Era. So they were starting to get edgier, and like Roland said, the whole sexual chocolate angle and the storylines weren't great. But D'Lo Brown was one of those workers that got lost in the shuffle. X-Pac, like kind of like an X-Pac, got lost in the shuffle, where they were always those upper mid-level cards. Like they weren't world champion, but they weren't like bottom of the barrel. Like they were always like this, the European title or the Intercontinental title picture, because they could carry the mid card and make it believable. And like you said, that sky high he does, and the lowdown, like he had a good moveset and he had style. Like that head shake, I guarantee every listener, if I say that D'Lo Brown head shake, you're all doing it right now, because it's so memorable when he would just like roll his head around as he's coming out. And he also had one of those iconic theme songs, like "You're looking at the real deal now."
Next up is a singles match for the Intercontinental Championship. Harvey Whippleman is your special guest referee. You have Jeff Jarrett with Miss Kitty or Mrs. Lawler or Mrs. Former Lawler. Going to get a win over China by disqualification. This match went way too long. It was 12 minutes. Lots of Gaga with Mae Young and Fabulous Moolah in there. Originally, China gets the win after, and I'm drawing a blank. Jeff Jarrett got hit with a chair, I believe. And then the Harvey Whippleman didn't see the chair shot, but Tom Pritchard comes out, reverses the decision. So Jeff Jarrett wins by disqualification, retains the belt. Again, just way too long. Just, you can't get away with this stuff today. And just, I don't know, it's a whole bunch of Gaga in this one.
Yeah, we talk about how Monday Night Raw can cure insomnia. The first three matches of this pay-per-view can cure insomnia as well. They just a lot of promise on paper, and then they just failed to deliver. And again, they highlight the scab referees. This is the third match in, and they're still doing the whole scab referee didn't see. I mean, I get that regular referees don't see, and again, I'm using air quotes, don't see the action at certain times, but what would you expect? It's like when the NFL had the replacement refs a couple of years ago. What do you expect? They're not going to be as good as the regular officials. If they were, we wouldn't be in this mess. So, like I said, I feel like instead of highlighting the performers, they highlighted Harvey Whippleman and Tom Pritchard and Steve Lombardi most of the night, unfortunately. And it definitely took away from the matches. And like Tim said, there was just, I mean, this is supposed to be a 2-person match, and there's like 27 people at the ring. Like it's just too much going on, too much Gaga. And kudos to, anybody that hasn't listened to Jeff Jarrett's My World podcast. Kudos to Jeff. He doesn't hold anything back, and he was a consummate professional when it came to putting over China. He may have held up Vince, and again, air quotes for those who can't see me, but he likely may have had the most short straws handed to him ever, and he did it with a smile on his face. And kudos to him, because I guarantee you there's a lot of people back in 99 that wanted nothing to do with being beaten by a woman.
No, I agree. Jeff Jarrett gets a lot of unnecessary hate from WWE fanboys for how he walked out on their savior, which first and foremost, read his dad's book, listen to My World. It's two sides to every story. And, this is about a month before his departure. So you could tell they were kind of burying him storyline wise, but making him not really look as credible. Like he had to get lucky to beat a woman, like you say, a woman to beat China, which, at that point she was a ninth world wonder. So it shouldn't have been that like believable. She could have gotten there one clean. Then this sets up the Good Housekeeping match essentially, which is another Gaga match. So I don't know the agents that work in the storyline, helping the storyline, but it was too overproduced, too much storyline. I know China was green still, but Jarrett had to carry the match, but the Gaga killed anything this match could have, been. This could have been the first time a woman won the Intercontinental title on live television, and it could have been spectacular, and Jarrett would have been proud to do it. But like Roland said, you had to put like the whole entire audience in the friggin' ring, plus have guitar shots and random scab officials be mentioned come out and reverse it. Like you just ruin anything the storyline that the match told because you focused on the refs, like Roland said.
Next up is a tag team match. You have the Acolytes, Bradshaw and Farouk against the Dudley Boys. The Acolytes are going to get the win in about 7.5 minutes here. More Gaga here. The Hardy Boys come out. Stevie Richards comes out dressed as an Acolyte with the UPN logo. That's a flashback, kids, to UPN.
It's a TV network. Look it up, folks.
Yes.
I think it's now the CW.
Yeah, it's the CW now. Stevie Richards gives a super kick to Devon, and the Acolytes win, and then the Acolytes kind of beat up Stevie Richards. I mean, this is probably the best match of the night so far, which isn't saying much. Again, it's still nothing to write home about. Luckily, it wasn't too long. I mean, these are two really good tag teams, though. But yeah, again, it's just nothing special so far in this pay-per-view.
Yeah, this was actually the pay-per-view debut of the Dudley Boys in WWF. This is back when Bubba had the stutter, which is just another thing you probably can't get away with today. You can't fake a speech impediment or a mental illness or a mental retardation, or you can't, like Eugene, like you couldn't do that today. So like I'm just saying, like having someone have a fake stutter would not go over in 2021. Yeah, and again, nothing special about this match so far. This pay-per-view has been I don't even know if under delivering is like a low enough term. This pay-per-view has been disappointing, I think, at this point, 4 matches in. And there's a lot of talent on this show, which is kind of depressing to think about. Like some of the talent that's on, like Tim said, I mean, these are two of the better teams ever in the history of the World Wrestling Federation, WWE, whatever you want to call it. And, or even ECW with the Dudleys, and, they've been everywhere. But again, it's just more Gaga and unnecessary Gaga, really, I guess the best way to put it. And it just, again, took away from what could have been. I mean, if you just let the Dudley Boys and the Acolytes have a match, it could have been a solid match.
No, I agree. I feel like the APA were always the ones to test the ones coming in from WCW, ECW, because remember when they beat the living hell out of Public Enemy, like potatoed them, stiffed them. So I think this was like another test, and it was weird because when you mentioned the stuttering gimmicks, I'm like, oh man, I don't remember this, but for good reason. But Vince would try that again with Goldust too. Like, I don't know why. Yep, I don't know why. Like Roland said, that these things are laughing at someone's disability is not funny. And I'm not saying that Bully Ray did this, but I don't understand the direction of it. Like, it didn't make sense to his character. Were they saying it's because he's from the South? Because that's insulting to the Southern people. Was it from chair shots to the head? Then you probably shouldn't do chair shots to the head. Like, they didn't really explain it. And then, Devon slapping him in the back of the head to get him to talk normal. And like you said, just all the interference ruined it. They could have just had a decent match because the Dudley Boys could go, the Acolytes could go, and they still had that rawness, and they could at least had somewhat of a stiff match. And if you want to end it in Gaga, maybe have W start using the tables and put Acolytes to the table if they're pissed off that they lost.
Well, and like you said, I don't understand what Vince is. I mean, Vince seems to really like that kind of thing and like toilet humor, but yet like a germaphobe. So I don't get it. Like, I don't. You got people peeing on each other and all this weird, ooze and whatever, and then you have Vince eating a steak and cutting it up, and and not letting parts touch, and if he sneezes, it's a weakness and all. It's like what? It's like this dude is so weird. But like just some of the stuff that you definitely could not get away with today. I mean, hands down. Like I said, the character Eugene, if they tried to do that today, oh my goodness, like it would be. And don't get me wrong, Nick Dinsmore did a hell of a job playing that character, but again, wouldn't fly today.
And it goes to show that we hold this in such high regard, but it's because we were teenagers. We were in our preteens, so like this was a big time in our lives where we thought this kind of stuff was funny and it was hilarious, and we enjoyed the wrestling of it. We definitely probably didn't enjoy the Gaga, but the reason why it's not as good as we remember is because it's more special to us than actually being good content. And like you said, this stuff even back then really shouldn't have gone over, but who was saying no to Vince? This was when they started winning the Monday Night Wars. This is right a little after. This is when they're starting on the rise. This is when the Attitude Era is fully taking over. They're starting to crush it in the ratings. So Vince, at this point, he's untouchable. Like, oh, I'll do whatever the fuck I want. I'm Vince McMahon. Bischoff said recently, like, oh, Vince loves a good fight, and Tony Khan should watch out. It's like, no, Vince loved a good fight back then. Now he just doesn't give a shit, because ever since his ego got inflated for being WCW, he's just been on the I know what the fans want. They don't know what they want. They're stupid. They'll believe whatever I tell them.
Mm-hmm. The Gaga, though, will continue with this next match. It's a hardcore match for the Women's Championship. Harvey Whippleman's your referee here. It's Ivory and Luna. Ivory's going to get the win in about 3.5 minutes. This is just a hardcore backstage brawl. Not really a wrestling match. Tori gets involved. That's a name from the past, if you remember her. Ivory hits Luna with some sort of pole, gets the win, 1, 2, 3. It's just your typical hardcore backstage. It's not a match. It's just a brawl. This probably could have been left off the show. This probably could have been for a heat spot or something. I didn't really add anything to the show. And again, just continues the disappointing trend of this pay-per-view.
Next.
It just, yeah. There's not much more to say about it. Tim Day was just, I guess, Gaga bullshit. I don't understand the point. It felt like a backstage segment. Instead of talking about match, I will tell you there is a funny story about Tori, the one, not Tori Wilson for those listening, but Tori, single name. So years and years ago, we went down to the mall, me and my buddy Glenn, to meet John Cena back when he was like the U.S. champion in first grade spinner. And they used to do these public appearances in the mall. And what WWE do is you have to kind of pick which superstar you wanted, or you do like a combo ticket. Well, no offense, I didn't really want to do a combo ticket, so we just did John Cena. Well, my buddy Glenn is tall and bigger American like myself, so we both stood back there. So they had to like walk and do like a wide angle. So she's on the other side. And she kind of leans into the shot. So we got a free combo package because she leaned in. But I thought it was kind of funny. I'm like, oh, we didn't really want to meet you, but hi.
You're like, thanks.
She was super nice, though. I do feel that this was the kind of stuff she got stuck with was Gaga and Hocus Pocus stuff. Like the only cool spot was when Luna dived off the forklift, but even that kind of looked super protected. Like it kind of just fell.
Well, and then you got to remember too that like this is also an era when women's wrestling didn't matter.
Yeah,
especially to Vince. Vince wanted models, and no offense to any of these people, they don't necessarily, especially Luna, they don't fill the look, and again, air quotes, of like a Trish Stratus or somebody. They don't have, so you're not going to get that TV time, and that's why it looked like a poorly produced backstage segment. I mean, that's exactly what it looked like, and that's what it felt like, and that's probably what Vince thought it deserved.
It's sad because Tim made a good point when we did our Armageddon 99 pay-per-view, but Ivory, that she just was always given the short end of the stick. And I know, Roland, you've said before that she's in the wrong generation. She should have been wrestling nowadays instead of back then. And it's just a shame that, the same with Luna Vachon, these are two talented performers that had to basically say, oh, let's take 3 minutes of garbage and try to make something out of it so we could be on TV.
Next up is a tag team match for the tag team titles. You have the New Age Outlaws against Edge and Christian. Match goes about 11 minutes. I misspoke earlier. I said that the Hardy Boys interfered in the Acolytes match. I actually interfered in this match and cost Edge and Christian the win. It was a good match. again, nothing memorable though. Nothing is really sticking out to me about this. And I literally just watched this a few hours ago, and like I don't like nothing is sticking out and noteworthy to me. I mean, these are two really popular tag teams. I mean, this is kind of beginning of Edge and Christian. This is kind of before they really take off. This is pre-TLC matches and stuff like that. New Age Outlaws are the established team here. So it's cool to see that, Edge and Christian, their beginning stages here. But as far as the match goes, again, just another their match for me as the theme of this. And that's kind of the theme of this pay-per-view.
Yeah, and it's funny to think about this era again because it was back at Fully Loaded 99 when Road Dogg and Billy Gunn were on opposite sides of the ring fighting each other for the DX name along with China and X-Pac. 2 months. And now they're back together. You had the unsuccessful Billy Gunn singles push that they found out didn't work as well as they'd hoped it would. And then after that, they decided to reunite them. You wonder how much steam that really took away from, obviously the New Age Outlaws are still popular to this day. They just had a tag team run a couple years ago. So it's one of those things where, the oh, you didn't know play, it still makes people pop to this day. So, but it just goes to show you that they had no direction. You don't have two guys fight each other and then 2 months later they're teammates again. Like it doesn't make any sense. There's no continuity there. It just doesn't. And like Tim said, there's very good performers in this match, and it's just kind of meh. It's just there. So unfortunately for them, the performers, Edge and Christian and the Outlaws, it was another very uneventful match. And like Tim said, the Hardy Boys came out for the interference in this match, and it's just, again, something that what could have been, I guess, is the best way to describe maybe even this whole show, but just about every match on this show.
So I have my notes right on this point because I was thinking the same thing. Like, it has been very like garbage level for the first 5 matches to now we get a meh kind of match. Like, what's going on? Like, there must have been something else besides them taking injury. So Vince Russo bounced 7 days after this pay-per-view, so that explains a lot. Kind of explains maybe their just lack of booking, because I guess maybe they're just scrambling. So, and I think it also just showed their lack of faith in their division below their perceived big six. You have Triple H, Kane, and Mankind and Rock, in the main event. So you have your big stars in the main event, not really spread out like normal. So this is what you put on, but you don't give anyone time. You don't really give them the match. This match itself felt like it was just setting up the Terry Invitational tournament next month, at No Mercy. It just felt like it was just there to set up the Hardy Boy feud. So it almost felt like New Age Outlaws were an afterthought. And like Roland said, they've had more breakups and reunitions than reunitings, than the Big Show's had heel turns.
Oh, we were just talking about that last week on our TNA episode. So and that was 05. So you have, it seems like wherever Brian James goes, Hip Sop is going to follow. And they seem to be, which is kind of comical in a way as to why that, Billy Gunn is in AEW now. And it's ironic that he stayed away this long, because usually they're one and the same. They're usually right with each other. If one person goes, the other one, and that's kind of how Road Dogg was with Jeff Jarrett originally, which I think is kind of ironic in a way that it seems like they're always tied together. But one more interesting thing, this, not to shit on this whole show or this match, but this easily was the best thing on the card to this point. That's one thing I will point out. And then this was also when they decided to pull the New Brood shit. So when the Hardy showed up, Gangrel was actually with them. So I don't know, dude. This stage of 99 is just clusterfuck central. It's just its storyline. Like Mongo said, maybe that's what, Russo leaving. Maybe that's why these storylines are so weird and just there. But I don't know, man.
Well, not to jump into the next match too early, but we did have a few Raws before this, the Al Snow Big Boss Man fighting for essentially Pepper on a pole. So I feel like he had to get that one last gimmick match in there. So maybe that's why, because I feel like this next thing is I'll let Tim in, but this next thing is an ode to Russo. This is like, I feel like his masterpiece, so to speak, of leaving WWE.
I mean, do we really got to talk about this?
Oh, we have to, because that's the only interesting thing about this fucking thing.
And fans, we're not talking about the masterpiece.
No.
Just so you know.
Chris Adonis, baby.
Yeah.
NWA US champion right now.
Speaking of different promotion stuff, it was kind of cool to see Christopher Daniels show up on Impact last night. That was pretty cool. I will say that. I mean, it has nothing to do with what we're talking about, but I just figured I'd throw that out there now.
All right, so we got to talk about the Kennel from Hell match. It's for the Hardcore Championship. Nobody cares about that. Steve Lombardi's the referee. Nobody cares about that. So basically what it is it's the blue cage, which I think they're still setting up now because that took them forever to put that up together. And then you have a Hell in the Cell cage, and in between the cages are supposed to be like these aggressive Rottweilers. And you have to escape both cages to win. And it's Al Snow, the Big Bossman. Al Snow's your champion, and the storyline is Big Bossman basically killed Al Snow's dog Pepper and made him eat it.
Yeah, I was trying to say
that actually happened. That was a storyline, folks.
Yeah.
that was a real storyline that they did. So first of all, they start the match with no dogs, which Jerry Lawler keep asking where the dogs are. And then the dogs come out, and they're not aggressive whatsoever.
They would have been better off having the road dog just sitting there on his hands and knees barking at people.
I think Matilda was more aggressive than these dogs.
That's a good reference.
Matilda the child, or
no, the bulldog.
I'm just giving you shit. I know it's Davey Boy Smith's dog. I was just trying to fuck with Tim.
But
it's late night.
It was also the Dynamite Kid's dog. Don't discredit the Dynamite Kid.
It's true.
But this was the most asinine shit that I've ever seen. Like, it just like
and literal shit and piss.
I'm like, first of all, it's a boring match. Like, for a hardcore match, this was boring. And I'm like, it's just like, what are we doing? What happens if like the Big Boss Man, like there's a spot where like the dogs were outside and he was on top of the kid? What if you accidentally fell on like top of the dogs? Like, I just, why are we doing this? I don't get it.
Bro, then we'll put a second cage out around the big blue cage, and we're going to fill it with these vicious dogs, bro. Vince McMahon, that's good shit.
No, they're literally going to shit, bro. And then they're going to start humping each other, so we have to take them off camera awkwardly.
Yeah. That, like Tim said, do we really have to discuss this? I mean, I know it's on the show, but I know we throw around the term clusterfuck a lot, but good Lord, like this might define clusterfuckery at its best here because, like Tim said, the dogs weren't there to start the match. JR's losing, or the King's losing his shit about where the fucking dogs are to start the match, and then you have, I mean, no offense to Ray Traylor and no offense to Al Snow, but it's not like they're known for being guys that can carry a match. Like, no offense to either one of them. I mean, Al Snow's still, and kudos to him for saving a kid's life there recently, in a riptide, I guess, a couple months ago or a month or so ago, whatever it was. But this seems like a match that you'd have with like bigger stars that on paper sounds really good, and then they're like, you know what, we're gonna put the Big Boss Man and Al Snow in there, and you know why? Because Boss Man made Al Snow eat his own dog.
Which,
like, literally, think about that. That was a storyline. A man ate his dog.
Well,
it sounds just like the South Park episode where Carbon makes the guy eat the
Scott
kid.
Tetherman, yes.
He makes him eat his parents. Like, I don't.
Your tears are so salty. But Vince Russo worked at a video store. Like, that's why, like, okay, again, we've had this before. We love Vince Russo for the good he brought to wrestling. We appreciate the shout out he gave us. But this is the kind of shit, Vince. Come on, you got to atone for this shit. Like, what the actual fuck? Like, clearly he had the whole Son of Sam mentality going because Pepper, the dog that he ate. Remember he used to talk to him, and then
he used to talk to the mannequin head too, but nobody ate that.
Well, that's the reason they had Pepper, because so being a part of the major podcast group, it's cool. You learn stuff. So the reason why they wanted to get rid of his head, because they tried to sell his action figure at Walmart, and someone flipped out because there was a severed head in the package. So they had to yank it off the shelf. So them bringing in Pepper was a way to kind of like give him a different mascot. But then I remember they used to hit him with a dog kennel. I'm like, well, obviously the dog's not in there because PETA would lose their shit. And I rewatched on YouTube today some of the different build-up to this. There's a scene where literally Al hits Bossman with the dog carrier. The gate flies off and it's obviously empty. And Jerry Lawler's selling it like a dog's day. He's like, that poor dog. I'm like, oh no, this poor storyline. And then, the coup de grace, like Tim said, is he goes to a hotel and Bossman goes, do you like that steak? Could use some pepper. And like, he ate this dog, and like, what the hell? And then your revenge is then you're supposedly a dog lover. You're gonna starve Rottweilers. So you're a dog lover, but you're gonna starve Rottweilers to make them angry, to have them come out to go into a match to fight a guy where you have to escape to win. So your revenge is, I'm going to trap you in here and then leave. Like, no, it's stupid. That's like what you'd see on Sweefy, Sci-Fi Channel. Like, no. And then, like we mentioned earlier, the dogs are running out. Clearly, they're not trained. And if you listen to Al Snow's podcast that he did a while back, he told that they need to get trained dogs. No, they called local veterinarians, said, who has a Chihuahua who can use this week? So it'd be random people's dogs every week. And then these Rottweilers were basically these, like, compassion dogs. So like that's why they didn't give a shit. That's why they were barking at each other the whole match instead of actually trying. And then when friggin' Al Snow and Big Boss Man, then they're trying to sell it. It's super awkward. Like Al Snow's supposedly these are his dogs, but he's running from them. Like what the fuck? This whole match was straight up insulting. So this is what this pay-per-view is gonna be known for forever. Is this garbage match? And I've seen it before, and I am so sorry that I had to sit through this again. But holy shit! If you ever want to see the most insulting what the fuck thing in wrestling, watch this match. I've seen a lot of weird shit in wrestling. This takes the fucking cake.
What does everybody want? This match to be over.
Not this match!
A man ate his dog.
A man made another man eat that said man's dog. That's how that
and
went.
Then we had to watch dogs shit on pay-per-view.
Hey, some people are weird. They're into that kind of thing.
It's good shit.
Yeah, I was gonna say Vince is probably out back like, oh, that one's taking a shit. But yeah, I don't know, man. I
feel bad for them and then Big Boss Man, damn, that's two stinker of the hell of themselves at the same counter. You had WrestleMania 15 where he gets strung up by the Undertaker, and then you have this like Ray Trailer, man. God bless you for taking whatever storyline you got, because you were handed shit at the end of your career.
Speaking of Ray Trailer, you guys remember seeing that picture? I don't know. It feels like maybe 6 months ago, where Ray Trailer's daughter has given her son an action figure that's the Big Boss Man, and in the bottom of I think it was a Snapchat. So in the bottom there was wording, and it said, "When your son doesn't realize that that's his grandfather." It's like, that's kind of cool. Like, yeah. I don't want to shit on Ray Trailer, and it's not his fault.
No, not at all. Yeah.
So I remember seeing that somewhat recently, within the last 6 months, and I just thought it was a really cool thing. Like, you're giving an action figure to your son, who is your late father, your son's late grandfather. So I mean, that's a pretty cool thing. And the kid didn't know. Like, that's the best part, is that in the picture it said that he didn't know. So that's pretty cool. I mean, it's shitty that it had to go that way, but it's just, I figure we got to end on a better note than that for that match, because both of these guys deserved better. And kudos to Al Snow for a lot of the garbage that he had to do throughout his career too. These two guys might be two of the more like, here's the shittiest storyline, go with it people I've ever seen, especially Boss Man's second run. Like when he came back after he wasn't wearing the blue outfit anymore. When he came back, he had some shitty shit. The Big Show funeral thing, and then this just
right after this, yeah.
I mean, just some of the garbage they put him through. Good Lord.
And and I agree. And he had a look like that was cool. I remember when he first came back in this like SWAT team, look. That's why I was like, oh, the Shield look. I'm like, it was always the big boss man look when I saw the Shield. Because to me, he always like wore the SWAT gear iconically, and it was just a shame that they never gave him, even just as a better enforcer, like have him like the Wardlow role where he wrestles occasionally, but he beats people up because he can still be an intimidating presence because he looked like he could kick your ass. It wasn't like, oh yeah, he's the big boss man, but he loses all the time. It's like, yeah, he's a big boss man, but yes, you have to beat the living shit out of him to beat him.
Mm-hmm. Next up is a singles match. You have X-Pac and Chris Jericho. X-Pac's going to win by disqualification after some interference by Curtis Hughes. Match goes about 13 minutes and 10 seconds. This match I was really looking forward to on paper, but again, it was a good match, but it didn't deliver that something special I was looking for. Like I thought these guys would tear the house down, and for me, it didn't accomplish that. And again, they kind of a crappy finish. I would have liked to see a clean finish here on this one, but again, I don't know. This whole pay-per-view has just been a downer so far. And I thought this match would lift it up, but it didn't really do much to do that.
Yeah, Curtis Hughes, poor Tom Pritchard at this point got knocked out of his blue sweatpants by Curtis Hughes in this match, and yeah, I don't know. It's unfortunate. Very seldom do we have pay-per-views that we review that are like this bad, but this one is pretty bad.
And it's a shame because we've talked about X-Pac on TNA pay-per-views where we're like, holy crap, he can still go. We've talked about him, on other shows where we're like, he could go. This was a good match. Jericho, you don't need to talk about Jericho. We know about him. It was a strange pairing with Mr. Hughes. Like, I don't understand why he randomly had a bodyguard when he just kind of came in as like, I'm going to come in and take over the WWF. Like literally 3 months ago, not even a month ago, he had just debuted. So I don't understand the purpose of this. And then it felt flat. And then again, commentary the whole night burying this show. It's like, it almost felt like they were just there, but they didn't actually have any passion or any care. It was like, I don't know. Like you said, we've reviewed some stinkers on the show, but so far this is probably one of the worst ones that I think I've rewatched.
Yeah.
And spoiler alert, it doesn't get much better.
No.
Way to tease, Roland. You're supposed to hook them in so they actually want to listen to the main event.
Yeah, well, so, full disclosure, at the end, we're almost at the end, but at the end, we're like, oh, this is the one match you should watch. Good luck.
Watch the Heat match. That was whatever the Heat match. I don't even know what the Heat match was. So the main event's the 6-pack challenge for the vacant WWF Championship. Stone Cold Steve Austin's the special outside enforcer. There's a whole convoluted storyline here where Mankind was the champion, and Triple H was the champion, and Vince McMahon was the champion. Now there's no champion. We could spend 2 hours kind of going through all that. But basically, the championship is vacant. You have Triple H, Big Show, British Bulldog, Kane, Mankind, and The Rock here. You're supposed to have 2 people in the ring and then tag in and out. It's just a cluster. I hate those rules because why would you ever tag out if you want to win the match? Doesn't make any sense. Triple H wins. There's some shenanigans with the real referees. They come in. They pull Jimmy Corderas, who was the referee in this match, outside the ring. So Stone Cold has to take over, which you could see was coming. Triple H gets the win, and Stone Cold stuns him afterwards. But I'm not even sure the Triple H pinned the legal man, or if he was the legal man. I couldn't keep up with it. It was just a big cluster, and yeah, just not a good way to end the pay-per-view.
Yeah, and it's funny that Austin was like the enforcer, but he was on commentary.
He was on commentary, yeah.
Yeah, wait, what? I don't. It's just, I don't know. And then of course the scab referee spot where, like you said, the regular referees that are on strike just happen to show up to attack or do whatever they're going to do to because it's definitely the scab referee's fault that you're on strike. Like what? That's like the NFL officials coming back and beating up the replacement refs. Like what? It doesn't even make any sense. So, and yeah, I will give this match credit as it was entertaining. However, it wasn't much of a wrestling match for one, and like Tim said, it was also a big old bag of clusterness. Like there was a lot going on here, and like Tim said, who knows to this day who the legal man was? If Triple H pinned the legal man, it was just there was a lot going on here, I guess is the best way to put it. And like I said, watching it back, it was at least entertaining. Like that's one thing I will say about this last match compared to everything else. It was at least entertaining, and there were spots that were entertaining during the show, but that's about all it was. I mean, there wasn't there was no real technical wrestling going on in this match. And again, it was more about Austin and the Scab referees than it was the 6 men competing in the match.
Yeah, it's just really hard to see 6 Hall of Famers in this match and just know that you already know looking at paper that it wasn't be good, because we said multi-men matches, multi-women matches, very, very hard to pull off well. And it's very hard to be entertained because of, like Tim said, the confusion, who's legal, why are they tagging out like this, storylines get kind of commingled. And I get it, you're trying to feature all these people, but you should have sprinkled them into the matches. If you wanted to have it for the vacant title, do a tournament. You could have had, okay, they wrestle once or twice, do King of the Ring style, and then have the semifinals on the show. It didn't make sense. It was just, this was when WF was like, we're winning the war, let's get some buy rates, but they put out a shitty product. And this is the kind of the stuff I do remember from the late 99 wrestling. You have Armageddon 99, you have this, but they had No Mercy in the middle sprinkled in. So it's like they always had shit sandwiches, but they were inside out. Like it was like a shitty pay-per-view, a good pay-per-view, a shitty pay-per-view, a good pay-per-view. There was just no consistency, and this match showed it. Like so many ways you could have booked it. I mean, I don't understand the obsession with multi-man matches for a vacant title. They've never made sense to me. Royal Rumble is one of the very few like multi-man matches that I can stand because of how it's done.
Well, that is our rundown of Unforgiven 99. Unfortunately, like Roland said, can't really recommend a match to watch on this pay-per-view. As far as the rating goes, probably for me, a 2, I would guess, and that's probably being generous. I don't think I've rated a show that low. This is probably one of the worst shows we've covered. And a man and his dog.
Yeah, and like I said before, and like Tim just said, you could miss this show and not miss anything. Like there's nothing that like, oh, you need to see this. Like I've now watched it twice, and it's probably 2 times too many. Like it's just there's nothing there. And I also want to give a shout out to Triple H for having survived his cardiac episode. We're not sure exactly what it was, but it sounds like he's healing up well and he's going to be back. And there's also rumors that the people that reported that Vince and Bruce were taking over NXT are full of shit. That Shawn Michaels actually was the one that ran the last 2 episodes, or at least the one before this past week, while Triple H was gone. So like, who knows what's going on there? I will say that, granted, and again, this has nothing to do with what we're talking about now, but granted, the show presentation has changed. I will give them that. But it does still seem like they're focusing on wrestling, which is kind of nice. I was worried they were going to do like a 180 and make it more. I mean, there is a little bit more gaga than there was before. I'll give them that. But they still seem to have a good product in the ring, which is nice. So just, I know, this episode isn't really about that, but we also have a little bit of time left. So I just wanted to throw out a few things that I was, in my head thinking about. But yeah, I would definitely rate this show. I mean, a 2 might be too high, but I also don't want to bury it to the umpth degree. But yeah, I think I'm with Tim all day that it might be doing it a bit of injustice giving it a 2. That's how bad it was.
I'm going to be mean, give it a 1. I mean, I only give it a 1 just because there's talent on there, but there's nothing worthwhile watching. So pass. So to me, like you said, I've watched it twice. It's too many times. I feel bad for all the performers on there because it's not from lack of working. It's not from lack of wrestling ability. It's just storytelling and storylines. It was too all over the place. This was just, we have nothing for anyone. Let's just throw on a car. We need to figure out some storylines for WrestleMania coming up next year. Because that's all supposedly Vince has ever focused on is the next WrestleMania, which it's all well and dandy, but if you're going to think long term, actually have long term storytelling. So everyone who today tries to die on the hill of WWE is the best thing ever, AEW sucks, and vice versa, and who really cares? Because we want all wrestling to succeed. So stop being a mark for just one company, be a mark for all wrestling. But this is the stuff. This is what the Vince, booking. This is Vince mentality is he'll get over what he wants to. He's going to do what he wants. If he wants a lot of characters on a show, like Rollins said with NXT, they're becoming more character based. And then you have it, but then he does this stupid shit. You have Rick Steiner's son doing his moveset, wearing his gear, sounding like Scott Steiner, looking like his dad. And you're calling him Braun Breaker with 2 Ks because one would just look stupid apparently. And you have to have the IP. So by putting the extra K in there, it gives them the intellectual property. So Vince McMahon can make his fucking money. Anyhow, continue. Sorry, I didn't want to cut you off, but like that hurts the shit out of me too, because like you said, and the best part is they won't even reference that he's Steiner's kid. They're not allowed to.
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying. So they're going away from that. And it's like, clearly this is Bronson Rex Steiner, who is Rick Steiner's son or father, where you want to put it. The father of that guy is Rick Steiner. Like they're like you said, put the two together from when he was younger. They're a spitting image of each other. That's like trying to say that Joe Henning doesn't look like Kurt. Come on.
Which they did. They tried to change his name. Yeah. And I don't understand.
Twice.
Yeah. And I don't understand like how people can praise Vince so much, but they can't criticize him. And I know it sounds like we dump on WWE, and it's not because we hate WWE. It's because we know they can do better. And we dump on this stupid decisions that drive fans away because you know what? Tim made a good point. Roland made a good point. When we do our NXT shows, and we have another one come up in a few weeks, the reason why those NXT crowds were hot is because you guys became internal competition. NXT became its internal competition. It became an alternative to the main roster. But then when AEW came around, then another alternative came. And unfortunately, NXT wasn't able to keep up with production of AEW and the newness of AEW. So it got moved Tuesdays. Vince probably took it personally, and that's why he's revamping it, because he's not going to be beat by his own company. It's his creation. I'll destroy it. Sound familiar? The NWO. Like, he buried WCW, and if you go back in the archives, listen to the Invasion episode. He buried WCW talent as soon as they walked in the door. Chris Kanyon episode on Dark Side of the Ring. Watch it. Amazing. He buried Chris Kanyon when he came in and wonders why Chris Kanyon was afraid to tell people about his real self. If Vince doesn't understand you, he's going to make it so you're his character. Like going back to Rick Steiner's son. How can you not at least acknowledge a lineage? I understand you want to own the IP. Whatever. That's business. That can be argued here or there. But when you have another second generation superstar, you can't say, "Oh yeah, he's the son and nephew of the legendary Steiner brothers." That's so easy. And you know what? You're going to get some people to watch like, "Oh, that's cool. I want to see that." Because shit, when The Rock's daughter debuts, they're going to be like, "This is The Rock's daughter. This is The Rock's daughter. Do you know she's the daughter of The Rock?" They pick and choose who they want to acknowledge the lineage for, and it's bullshit.
Did you just say acknowledge?
Acknowledge them. That's another thing. Don't get me started on how everyone shit on Roman Reigns, and now all of a sudden, because he's a heel with Paul Heyman in his mouthpiece, suddenly he's the best thing walking. Like, it's a good push for him. It's a good storyline, but it's not like he's the best WWE wrestler ever to walk this planet. He just has a great gimmick right now and a great mouthpiece.
Neither was Hogan, neither was Cena. Like, all these people that blew up that were that level, they're not a Daniel Bryan, they're not a Kenny Omega, they're not a Chris Jericho in his heyday, they're not a Shawn Michaels, they're not a fan, they're a gimmick. They're not like, that's the biggest difference. Yeah, they're a gimmick and a character that people can get behind. They're not the best performer. And that I will say that Roman Reigns is a very capable performer. I'll give him that. But he's not a Daniel Bryan, he's not a Kenny Omega, he's not a Seth Rollins, again, to bring up somebody that's still there that can go. He's not on that level. And I mean, I shudder to think what the business would be without some of these guys, like a Seth Rollins or, a Randy Orton or, a Cesaro, these people that are kind of holding it together. Because if not, it would be all these big jacked up assholes slapping each other. It'd be like Drew McIntyre fighting Roman Reigns every week.
And that's that's why WCW thrives, and that's why it's funny when people want to talk. And our show is called Past and Present. If you don't like this part, you can tune out. But we like to talk to present too.
Yeah.
But that's why I think people get not upset, but I feel like I don't understand why they shit on AEW so much, or AEW fans shouldn't WWE. Like, you can like all wrestling. Like, I want wrestling to see, because that means it's more for us as fans, better wrestling as fans. This should be pushing WWE to do better. And but it's Vince. Vince needs to step back and let other people run it, because him and Pritchard, all Pritchard's going to do is say yes, boss, with his nose so far up his ass that when he sneezes, it'll come out Vince's mouth, because that's a sign of weakness, as we know. But it's not going to help the product when Vince is always the one who has, I'm going to tear this script up, or this is bullshit, or I don't like this, or this isn't funny. Listen to the Jericho interview with Adam Cole. They wanted to change his name and change his gimmick. Like, so you're going to take what just works in NXT and take it. So then you just lost those NXT fans. That's why those fans went to AEW so quick, because look how hot the crowd was at AEW Grand Slam. Like, yeah, did the match end a little bit of gaga, the draw? It did, but we know it's going to lead up to an Iron Man match or something similar. But listen how hot the crowd was the entire night, even with some of the lackluster matches. Like the Cody match was lackluster, and I feel that because Aleister Black did good, but Cody was kind of subpar. But the crowd was still hot for that match. That's the big difference. Is give us something to want to invest our time into. Like this pay-per-view, if this was like what was delivered today, I wouldn't sit and watch it. Like, you need something that's going to invest you, and that's what a good wrestling company does. Have a good product in the ring, have believable storylines, and don't insult your fans. That's the biggest one. Don't fucking insult the people who are paying your bills.
Well, and you would never see the type of match that Bryan Danielson and Kenny Omega had on Dynamite on Wednesday night. You would never see that on WWE TV right now. You wouldn't see it on NXT. You wouldn't see it on Raw, SmackDown, because Vince wants the characters and Vince wants the larger-than-life people. And no offense, I mean, that has worked in the past, but, fans are leaning more towards sports entertainment phasing itself out and becoming wrestling again, which is exciting if you're a wrestling fan. And that's the big difference, is that I can still watch Raw and I can still watch SmackDown, and they do have some decent wrestling matches. I will give them that, but they don't focus on that. They focus on the gaga and the stuff in between, where AEW still has some of that gaga and whatnot, but they focus on having a good match, putting out a good product for their fans, and not trying to insult their fans. That's the biggest difference. And that's because you have an owner in Tony Khan who listens to the people around him that actually perform in the ring. And then you have an owner in Vince McMahon who says it's my way or there's the door.
Right. Everyone shitting on, oh, look, all the talent that, AEW signed nothing, because he drove them away or fired them. So they're going to go where they're going to thrive. So you're telling me that if you worked at Walmart and your corporate was so toxic and Target was like, hey, we're opening more locations. Want to come work for us? We're going to give you the schedule you want, the hours you want. You only have to work 4 days a week versus 6. You're going to tell me you wouldn't take that job? Because that's what these wrestlers are doing. So it's just an ignorant comment. Like when people, I hear people, like, boils my blood online when I see people like, oh, another WWE reject. Okay, so they can go through the WWE roster. Oh, look, another ROH reject. Oh, look, another New Japan Wrestling reject. Like, guess what? Wrestlers come from wrestling companies. Just because WWE creates characters doesn't mean they create the wrestlers. And when Kevin Owens goes out the door and goes back to AEW, Tim's probably going to cancel his Peacock account. We'll have to figure out what else to do.
Probably.
Oh, and to be completely honest, would you rather have Vince hoard these people, or would you rather have him actually let them go so they can? Like, that's the difference here, is that the people that AEW signed, they're not signing everybody. Like, there's a bunch of people that didn't get signed. There's a bunch of people that have come in for a cup of coffee, like a Matt Cardona, and then gone and done other things. But they are smart enough to realize what the people want, and they bring in who the people want to see. And if they didn't want to see them, then they wouldn't be there. And that's the biggest difference, is that you can say that AEW is, hiring all this ex-WWE talent or rejects or people that were fired or whatever. I'll tell you what, I would rather see these people that are on AEW that came from WWE than not see them at all. And that's the biggest difference in AEW, is that they're actually, like Ruby Soho, she would never have been able to do a promo like she did last week on NXT or on Raw or anything. They wouldn't give her the leash would be too short. So I would rather see that and rather see these people come in like an Adam Cole, have the big fanfare of Bryan Danielson, have a big fanfare, and then get to do what they, that's the difference between a Daniel Bryan and a CM Punk coming to AEW. They want to wrestle. They don't want the gaga and all this stuff. And that's the biggest difference. I mean, Bryan Danielson, whatever you want to call him, he penned a letter thanking the WWE for all of his time there. Like, he's not bitter about leaving there. And that's the biggest thing. Like, a lot of people are like, oh, they're going there just to try to shove it up Vince's ass. No, they're going there because they want to fucking wrestle. That's the end of the fucking story. They are going there because they love wrestling and they want to go work for a wrestling company. And if the people didn't want it and Tony Khan didn't want it, or the people, the EVPs, the Bucks, Cody, Kenny Omega didn't want that, they wouldn't be there. Because there's people like Buddy Murphy, there's people like Braun Strowman who probably aren't going to come in to AEW. It sounds like. But still, like, there's people out there that could show up, but they're not signing everybody. They're signing the people that they think are going to bring, quote, Tony Schiavone, they're going to put butts in seats. Plain and simple.
And then it helps out Impact too. That now that he's finally trimming down the roster. Braun Strowman's rumored to go to Impact. We've talked about before. That would be great to see him in Impact. Buddy Murphy, imagine him in the X Division match. Like, he'd kill it. So he could have great matches with Josh Alexander. So there's places they can go. And I'll never understand the mentality. And you very well said, I'm not going to echo any more than that. But it just, I can't believe how we're spoiled. This is essentially the Monday Night Wars Part 2. Yes, they're on different nights, but this is like officially, the Monday Night Wars again. And that's when wrestling was at its best. From like 94 to right around this time, 99, we're reviewing. Wrestling was white hot. You couldn't wait to tune in on Monday and watch both shows. You would tape one, watch one live, or vice versa. Or if it was if you knew that Raw was taped from England, you'd try to find spoilers back when they were harder to find, and watch Nitro. Now, you know what? I really could I'll tune into Raw, like you said, to watch a match here and there, but I'll tune into AEW for the whole damn thing.
Yeah, I think I just echo what you guys said. I mean, we want wrestling to succeed. We want both companies to succeed, all companies to succeed. And so hopefully WWE gets their shit together and doesn't put on any more pay-per-views like Unforgiven 99.
I mean, on Extreme Rules doesn't seem like it's going to be too super. It's going to be whelming, but probably not over or under.
Yeah, right. All right, so that wraps up today's episode. Hopefully we have a better show for you to review for you guys next week. We're going to do Bad Blood 97. That's the Taker and Shawn Michaels Hell in the Cell match, as well as the debut of Kane. So looking forward to covering that. Again, we got some really exciting stuff coming down the pipeline for you guys, especially our 100th episode's coming up. So we're going to do something real special for that. Hopefully we'll have some details, more details to share with you guys soon in regards to that. So looking forward to the next couple of weeks. I think it's going to be a lot better than the show we covered today.
Yeah, and a lot better than like our first 10. So.
Yes.
Hey, Roland, not to give you the Madden curse or anything, but man, props. It's been like almost 2 months now without mute. So like Roland's on a roll, guys. Like, can we just say that him and the button aren't having the war? Me and the English language, that's another thing coming. But
well, now that I have a setup and I can put the button right in front of me, I can see it. Like, it's right there. So if it's blue, I can talk. If it's red, I probably should hit it so I can talk.
Tim, he's growing up on us.
I know.
Are you guys proud? Are you proud of me?
We're almost professionals.
Always.
Wow.
But
almost.
To echo
Almost
Tim's
superhero.
Yeah.
ASH. But no, to echo Tim, yeah, we have exciting things. So make sure you're following our socials at WWPAP Podcast. Make sure you're liking the content, because Facebook loves to hide our stuff. So doesn't Instagram. If you're not liking or commenting, it basically buries it faster than Triple H with a golden shovel. And just make sure you listen to the podcast, because I have a feeling maybe next week we'll be able to share our first big piece of big news, because that'll be about a month before, so we can really start planning.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, lots of great things coming your way. Thanks for tuning us in today. We'll be back with Bad Blood 97 next week. Until then, I'm Tim Kurt.
I'm Roland Fulis.
And I'm Mongo.
And this is Wrestling with Wrestling's Past and Present. A man ate his dog.
That wasn't good shit, Vince. I hope you're all having a nice day.